Hello? You recording? I don't know what the hell I'm doing, sorry. Why hello. So if you've been paying close attention to my channel, you may have noticed that I did not do wrap-up videos for June, August, September, November, or December. That is because I did not do a lot of reading during those months, and I just didn't want to make a video to talk about like 2 books that I had read over that month and feel pathetic. So in order to feel slightly less pathetic, I'm going to do a what I have read recently video. All right, so I'm just gonna go ahead and get into it. The first book that I picked up was back in June, and it is Water for Elephants by Sarah Gruen. This is an adult historical fiction novel that follows a young man named Jacob Jankowski, and he has recently lost his parents and basically run away to join the circus. This is of course a reread for me. I read this many years ago and loved it, and I'm here to tell you that I loved it just as much, if not more, the second time around. I rated this 5 stars when I first read it, and I rated it 5 stars again. I just, of course, remembered loving this book, and I wanted to read a book that I knew I was gonna love again. So I just decided to pick this up on a whim in June, and I'm so glad that I did because I just love this book so much. I also own Sarah Gruen's second book. I can't remember the name, but it's up here, and I know it has to do with like the Loch Ness Monster, so I don't know why I haven't read that. I would definitely love to read that very soon, especially so soon after reading her debut novel. The next book I picked up is Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte, and I read this during July and August. It's a pretty short book, but it is very dense and it's a classic, so it took a little time. For those of you who don't know, Wuthering Heights follows Kathy and Heathcliff. Young Kathy lives with her father, mother, and older brother, and one day Kathy's father brings home Heathcliff to be his ward. From there, the story follows Kathy and Heathcliff through their childhood, to their teenagehood, and then through their adulthood. It's a very obsessive love story, and it's not unrequited. Kathy and Heathcliff love each other very much, but they meet many obstacles in their life, being that Kathy comes from a fairly wealthy family and Heathcliff was found as an orphan on the streets. So the socioeconomic background of each character plays a lot into their relationship, and of course it's a tragic love story, so you gotta throw some like love triangle action in there. This book was so depressing, but it was also so beautiful, and it was actually on my favorite books of 2018 video. I think I gave it 4 or 5 out of 5 stars. No matter how depressing and sad it was to see the deterioration of these characters, it's just a story that will stay with me, and it's definitely one of my favorite classics. So yeah, give it a read if you feel like depressing yourself. The next book I picked up is a graphic novel, and it is Adventure Time Volume 1. I read this back in September, and I love Adventure Time. If you don't know that about me, I'm a huge fan of the show. And with the show ending this year, I just wanted to go back to the world, to the beginning. There are so many graphic novels of Adventure Time, it's kind of overwhelming, but I hope that one day I'll be able to collect all of them. I gave this 4 out of 5 stars. It's just, you know, silly fun. It's adventure time, and I loved it so much. The next book that I picked up was Lord of Shadows by Cassandra Clare. This is the second book in the Dark Artifices series. I actually read this in November, and if you guys watched my worst books of 2018 video, I actually listed the first book in this trilogy, Lady Midnight, in that video. However, the follow-up to Lady Midnight was immensely better than Lady Midnight, in my opinion. I'm not gonna go into a lot of detail about this book because there's so much that I could possibly spoil, but this takes place in the Shadowhunters universe that Cassandra Clare is known for. It is a spin-off from the Mortal Instruments series, and it follows an entirely new group of Shadowhunters, though the Shadowhunters from the original series do pop up now and then, so that's always nice to see. The thing that I really didn't like about Lady Midnight was that so many people had hyped it up and said this is so much better than Cassandra Clare's previous work. And maybe I let the hype get to me, but I just didn't feel like it was that amazing. However, the characters go through a lot more in this book, and I really enjoyed the adventure and got a little bit more behind the romance as well. So I ended up giving this book, I think, a 4 out of 5 stars. The next book I picked up is a graphic novel, and I picked this up in December. This is Jim Henson's Labyrinth Shortcuts, and I had actually read this earlier in the year, but I didn't read it in this hardcover version. I had it in like the trade paperback. But yes, Labyrinth is such a beloved fandom to me. I've loved it since I was a child, and knowing that they were going to start releasing graphic novels in this world was something that I was so psyched for 2018. However, this one was okay. I think I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. It just had a bunch of silly little short stories that were cute and quirky, but it wasn't what I wanted, which was a backstory to Jareth the Goblin King. However, I then picked up Coronation, and this is the Jareth backstory that I was craving. Now, for those of you that don't know, Labyrinth, the original movie, follows a young girl who travels to the Goblin Kingdom to save her little brother from the Goblin King. It's actually her little brother Toby right there, and the Goblin King played by the amazing, wonderful David Bowie right there. So while the events in the first movie do pop up in this book here and there, it also tells of Jareth the Goblin King's backstory and how he came to be the Goblin King. I loved this so much. I just felt like it was such a well-told story. It's something I've always wanted, you know, to know where this character that I adore, even though I shouldn't because he's like super kind of evil and a little bit creepy, but I'd always wanted to know his backstory, his history, and this gave it to me, and it did not disappoint. I gave this, I believe, 4 or 5 out of 5 stars. Really, really enjoyed it, and I cannot wait for the next volume. I don't know when it's coming, but please give it to me. I need it now. The next book I picked up in December is Crown of Midnight by Sarah J. Masse. This is the second book in the Throne of Glass series, and this series is a young adult fantasy that follows a young woman who has been in prison, and she was recently released to compete in a tournament. Now, if she wins this tournament, she will be released from prison and become the king's assassin. This is, of course, a reread for me. I'm rereading the series this year, and I really, really enjoyed this one, even more than the first time I read it. I believe I gave it 4 out of 5 stars, and I enjoyed it so much more than the first book. The last 2 books that I picked up in December are Giant Days Volume 1 and Giant Days Volume 2. I have spoken about this graphic novel series on my channel so much, but I wanted to reread the first few volumes because this year I am going to finish all of the current volumes and then continue on with the releases that are coming out in 2019. For those of you who don't know, this story follows 3 teenage girls who are attending a British university. You have Susan, Esther, and Daisy. And unlike most graphic novel series or movies or books where you have a group of friends and you have a favorite, this is a series where I love them all so much, and I guarantee that you will too. It's quirky and it's funny, and the artwork really reminds me of like Saturday morning cartoons on Nickelodeon, which is just like a nostalgic factor that I adore. So yeah, I gave each of these 5 out of 5 stars. I love this series so much, and I can't wait to continue on with it in 2019. In the comments below, I would love for you guys to let me know if you have read these books and whether or not you enjoyed them, if you liked them, if you didn't like them, all of those things that you know. I want to know. I would also love to know what you guys have read recently. Alright guys, so that's all for this video. I hope that you enjoyed it, and I will see you in my next one.